everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and welcome to another awesome installment of Art Week Shark Week. I hope you're having a sharktacular time as we drop a shark theme painting every single day during Shark Week. Check out Shark Island. Is this awesome and spooky and amazing and mysterious? We're gonna Mako some art together. Be sure to follow me on Twitter so you can participate in our live tweet during Shark Week. Check the description below for materials and all the deets on all the fun stuff that's shark related, art related. Get your paint, get your brushes, come back and meet the easel right now. We're gonna dive in. So let's sink our teeth into the art materials we're going to be using today as we dive on into this really fun shark project. I have an 11 by 14 canvas board, and over here I have acrylic paint. Today's colors are actually really simple. I have quinacridone magenta, cad yellow medium, titanium white, phthalo blue, phthalo green, and black. I'm going to be using acrylic paint, and also a really fun tool that I'm having this is a lid. This is for the big peanut jar that I put a little tape in. This is a great project if you'd like to exchange some of those spray paint techniques. Let's look at drawing some stuff in that we need to know. So I have made a line 5 inches from the top. I'm making this level, and that really helps me show that this is water. The other thing that I'm going to really want to put in is my moon, and even though I'm going to be using that very same technique I showed you with the spray paint, I like to sort of draw it in a little bit early so I know where it's going to be. Then definitely you're welcome to use the traceable to get in your skull, which we have right here. Little stern looking skull. Remember, drawing is just an art skill. It is not the only art skill. So if you don't have your drawing skills yet, feel free to use the traceables. These are on the website and they're available to you anytime, and it's totally okay to use them. I'm just kind of marking in where I have that. I'm going to come over here about 1 inch below my waterline. I'm going to come down, up, it's almost like eyebrows for him, and up, and then I'm going to make a little high point in the water as if we're looking at two worlds through a plated glass. I'm going to come over on the right hand side and just very loosely sketch in the sea floor. I'm not going to put in my Mako yet, just because he's like the last thing that I'm going to paint in. Once all that is laid in, whether you trace it on or you sketch it in, either is okay. You get to do the sponge technique for the moon. This is a really fun way to do the moon. Let me show you how you can make that happen. The first trick, actually, I think, is to put a gray base down. So I like to take an acrylic brush first. This is a nice big number 10. I'm going to take a smidge, a small amount. See how little I pulled out here? Over to my white paint and make a very, very light gray. Right? Because I don't want a pure white. I want a light gray. And I'm going to just carefully paint in this moon. Right? I don't actually have to be that careful because I'm going to use my lid in a minute to sort of crop that off. Now, if you did any of my spray paint tutorials, you can absolutely just space up the sky right here. This is a great place to do it with your phthalo and your quinacridone. So feel free to be creative in that way if you want to. I just wanted to show you an alternative way to get the same effect in on this really cool Shark Island painting, where the Makos go to have the Mako parties. Because, you know, Mako sharks are like the models of the shark world. They're so sleek and long and fast. And all the shark designers want them. I don't know why I think that. It's a really weird thing to think and say. But I like Mako sharks. I think they have beautiful lines. So I'm going to pull this brush aside, and I'm going to get my sea sponge. These are just craft sponges. You can get these at the dollar store. You can get these at the craft store. My little trick to this, though, is I like to get it wet. Right? And then wring out the extra water. And I'm going to get some just white paint. I'm going to dab, dab, dab. See me dab, 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 dab on here. Okay, and it's going to be all bumpy. That's kind of fun. And come over here and just very nicely dab a loose and random pattern on your moon. And then I'm going to squeeze out the extra paint into my towel, and then guess what I'm going to get? I'm going to get a little black. I'm going to smush it around into my sponge. I haven't rinsed it out, so there's a little white there, so it grays it a bit, makes it uneven. I'm going to come off the back end and make a weird and unusual pattern here. This is another way to get a moon in, get a little more black on there. On this side, I'm going to get a little bit darker, but I don't want it to be too dark because I've got to have an island in front of here. And it's important that my moon is glowing. I'm going to come on this edge that doesn't have any paint on it. I'm going to get some bright white, and I'll come to this edge here so that when I paint my moon in, it's super glowy. Now it's a good time to rinse your sponge out because you don't want to leave the acrylic paint in it, and dry your moon. I'm going to do mine with a hairdryer. Once that's dry, I'm going to do a really interesting two-handed technique. It takes a little bit of coordination, but I actually think it's a lot of fun. And if you're circle challenged, which sometimes I am circle challenged, this is a great way to get a beautiful shape in your canvas. I'm going to get a small brush, bright. This here is a number 6 bright black pearl. I'm going to get it slightly wet to drag off the extra water. I'm going to pull out some just quinacridone. Just some nice little quinacridone. Pulling this out so it's nice and loaded on my brush. I'm going to come and line up my lid back where I had my line. And you're going to see that this leaves some of the sponging showing. I don't need to worry too much about that because I've got my quinacridone. And I'm just tracing around. It's okay if some of it crosses your water line because of the way everything is going to layer over this very transparent color. Just having a good time. All right, here we go. All the way to the water's edge. All the way to the water's edge. You can check that. Look at that. Nice, crisp moon line. How easy is that? That's crazy, right? I'm not going to rinse my brush off. I'm going to get some yellow on here. And I'm going to put out some glazing liquid. This helps me in my studio. My studio is very hot, and this slows the drying time of my paint down. I think it's a useful tool to have in your kit if you can get it. If not, you know, don't worry about it. You can just thin your paint with water and not stress about that. All right, so when I have all that on there, my yellow and my quinacridone, I'm going to come along my water's edge and very nicely on the edge of my brush, paint nice line, and I'm going to come around my moon with this bright color. I'm going to pull a little more yellow into my brush. I want this to be very warm at the water line. I'm just putting in this glowing color. I want this sky to feel otherworldly. I'm going to come on this side and do some more of this color. All right. Get my glazing, because again, your canvas may not dry out really quick, but mine does in just about a second. I'm going to pull a little of this up because it's really going to help me. Now I can offload my brush, which is to press the paint out of it and get just my quinacridone on there. And come back and start to layer these two colors into each other as I'm coming up into the sky, blending them softly together. The sky should be getting more red as we're going up. If you were a sailor and you were coming up on Shark Island, you would know that powerful creatures live here. It's a special place. Just coming around, painting that magenta. Little trick if you want to improve your blending that you can do is you can take a clean dry brush and sometimes lightly dust right over where you have two areas of wet paint. I don't know if you've ever seen that done. That is a great way to get yourself that sort of smooth blended effect. But it really works best if the brush is pretty soft and pretty dry. I'm going to keep this to the side here and wipe this out so it stays soft and dry. Now as I'm coming up, I might rinse my brush out because I may have some yellow in it still. And I want to get my quinacridone into my phthalo blue here. So I'm going to go from my quinacridone to my phthalo blue, putting these together. You can see I'm taking some of it from here and bringing it over here. And it's making a very deep, beautiful, dark sky color. And again, I may need my blending medium. I'm going to blend these two areas, seam them together around my moon. Around my moon, right here. Isn't that nice? Just paint that all in with this nice dark color, which is the quinacridone in the phthalo blue. It makes kind of a deep sky violet. Super nice. Just blending, 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 which is just really me going softly back and forth over my paint. But let's say I want to have, you know, maybe a nice soft blend between these two areas. I'm going to take that dry brush, that dry clean brush again. I'm going to just softly blend that. Isn't that crazy how that does? I really like that effect. It only works, and you may have to rub off on a towel like this, if the brush is clean and dry and the paints are wet. Here we go. Just see? Beautiful blending. This is a great way to get a cool effect on the sky. All right, there we go. So, and if you need to, another way is just have glaze. See, you can glaze two edges together. So it's like, there's always a way to make this look really, really nice. Now my next thing is I do want some stars in my sky. That's going to be important to me, and how I'm going to get those is I'm going to use my splatter brush and a soft body paint. Let me show you how you can do that. So this is a soft body paint. Just as a matter of fact, so is craft paint. It's the bottle paints that don't really hold the brush structure. And I like to use that for all kinds of splatter. I think that's a good thing to have in your toolkit if you can. This is my splatter brush. I will definitely include a link about that in the description below. It's part of my Galaxy set. And I really like it because it lets me do some fantastic stars. So I just load my brush like that and kind of rub it around. I'm going to come here and I'll show you. I just pull back lightly on the bristles and it starts to put stars in my sky. It is okay to have these splatters, interestingly enough, on the moon. It just adds to your moon's character. Right? So that's all it takes to star up your sky and add to the mystical quality of your painting. I highly recommend you don't leave this in water. Just rinse it out and dry it and put it to the side. All right, let's get that crazy above the waterline, below the waterline effect. Let me show you how easy that actually is to get in. I'm going to get another braid. I'm going to pick a nice number 6 braid. I'm going to get this wet, drag off the extra water. These are synthetic filaments. These black pearls are synthetic filaments, so they're not going to hold too much water. I'm going to come here and I'm going to make my phthalo turquoise, which is my phthalo blue and my phthalo green together. I'm going to take it a little more to the blue. And you can add, if you need to darken it, a smidge of quinacridone for the far off sky level. Do you see how that's doing? It's going to give us a dark, dark, far away color. So it is the phthalo blue, the phthalo green, and then where you need it to be darker, a smidge of quinacridone. I'm going to come here along my water line. Yes, I'm going to have an island, but I'm going to go ahead and go to the trouble of painting the whole water line. I'm using the edge of my brush to keep a nice level line. See how I'm doing? I'm just pulling that across, keeping my hand as steady as I can. And I'm going to put in my first coat of paint. So the water's going to take a couple of layers up here above the waves. And here's my little trick. So we are going to kind of come down the wave. And then I'm going to streak this out, because we're going to be painting sort of the flow of this water coming across. And yes, we're going to have an island, you know, right here. Don't worry about that. We need to make a very reflective, glassy surface above if we're going to make this believable. Phthalo blue, phthalo green, to darken it, a little quinacridone magenta. It's really cool how this works. So just darkening this up, coming down here, and I'm following this line, right? Following that line. You can see my brush sort of flowing and implying the water as I'm going, making sure my canvas is well covered. Once I have that, I'm going to get a little white on my brush, right? And I'm going to start putting in the little implied reflections that are happening in my water. Just flowing along here. Just another color, another tonality, like I'm coming down the water and then up. But then as I get back here to the horizon line, I'm going to have to level that out. While this is drying, so I can come back with my next series of colors, this is an interesting thing. You're going to take a little of this color, which is your watercolor, and add a smidge of black to it. Might be hard for you to see there, but that's what you're going to want. Your watercolor with a smidge of black. And you're going to come along the bottom edge of this. And let's make this slightly wider, coming at the edge here. And then it's going to taper and get narrow. Very delicate. We're actually representing some lensing that happens in the water, where you're seeing light and shadow. Then I'm going to come under this rolled wave, which we're going to paint up, and then across here. All right. So you're like, wait, how does that work? But it does. Pull up just a few streaks like I'm doing right now. And that's going to help you also show that that wave is going up. Now I'm going to get right into my blue. My color is still on my brush. I'm going to come and make some dark water far away coming forward. Make some dark water. Some dark water. These are dark nighttime waters. Right? Get some pure blue. Just keep it going. Dark and light water. That's what you're playing with. The dark and the light of the water. Now, my phthalo turquoise is phthalo green, phthalo blue. Right? I'm going to get a little white into that. And up here at the top of this wave, I'm going to pull some of that color down. Right? All along that way, I'm going to pull a little of that bright color down. Pull it in there. Put a little more blue on your brush. A little more white. Just for a second, Add a few highlights out in your water. Come up the wave. Right. Coming back. Let's add some highlights right here. And then we're going to come down. There we go. I'm going to put some of this color right here. If I need to get some glaze, I'm going to get some glaze. Pulling some of that in, right? Here we go. Painting that in. Paint that roll. Now, take your watercolor, which is your phthalo blue, phthalo green. Get your shadow in there, a little bit of black. Come here and add, right here in the wave, another little soft shadow. See how I'm feathering there? I'm going stroke, flicking that back, adding that little shadow. When this is all rested, we're going to add one last highlight, and it's going to pull this waterline from this waterline in a way that almost feels like magic, in my opinion. And in fact, I think in this case, I'm going to shrink my brush down a little bit to give me a lot of control so I can make a really sharp line. So I'm going to get a very, very small little bright. This is a #1 Bristles and Bright, but what you're talking about is just a very small bright that you have control over. Brights are square brushes. I'm going to drag off the extra water. I'm going to take a bunch of white into the aqua color I made earlier. I'm going to load up my brush. I want to make sure it's blue, but it has to be the lightest color that I have out here in my water. And I'm going to come along here and add this to the line. There you go. There, it's happening now. Come along this dark edge here. So this is a lot like painting glass, painting water. Anything is really, you don't paint what you can't see, you paint all the stuff you can see. And so in water, it's the reflections. That's what I can see. So that's what I'm painting. All right. There we go. Now we have it above the waterline and a below the waterline. Now, this is all dry, so guess what? I can put in my island, my Sharky Island, and that's actually a pretty fun thing to paint in. I'm going to get this #4 black pearl round. This is going to let me do a lot of island work. I'm going to get a little bit wet, drag off the extra water, and load up my black paint. See how I'm doing? And I'm going to paint a little island. So I'm going to imagine his skull comes up a little bit about here, but the island shelf may actually go over to the left a little bit. I don't really want it to come much above here on my moon because I need room for trees. So just think about that when you're painting your island shape. You know, think about how islands are shaped. So I'm wandering up. You can just sort of see me kind of wiggling and wandering my brush, trying to keep that line uneven. Paint all of this in black. There we go, painting all of this in black. Now you could have a volcano here, you could do the palm trees. Everything that you put on this creates the scale that we're looking at. And that's what's sort of fun. So feel like you can be imaginative on this piece. This is an amazing world above and below the water. I'm going to put a bunch of palm trees on here because they make me happy. So let's put a palm tree. And one of the tricks I can do is I can bring a little frond back. So I'm just doing these little strokes back, this little stroke, and then maybe a little one comes out here and another little one out here. There we go. once I have my little shape of it, then what I like to do is just do these little strokes. These are soft little strokes. You can see me just being gentle. Imagine the worst bang haircut ever. That's what you want for your palm fronds. If you were cutting these bangs, you'd be all mad. But you're not. You're painting a palm frond, and you want those sort of very uneven, wind-swept edges on it. Right? All right. There we go. Just loving that weird little palm tree. Let's give him some grassy friends. Have some plants and some stuff happening here. You can put all kinds of funny stuff on your island. I'm just going to have some little plants. I'm going to say, like, so say your ship was going down and you landed here and you'd feel all safe on this little rock out in the water, right? But you would not be safe. You don't know this, but the shark is the hero of this painting. He's the best chance you've got. Shark Island. All right. So I'm going to add another palm tree. I'll just curve up a nice little trunk. And I will put some little palm fronds down. The palm fronds. Fronds. A little foreshortened one here, and it can be a little shorter and worked out. Take it off the page if you want to. Pull it over here. It's just fun to do these, in my opinion. Giving them lots of personality. These little trees. Doing their little tree things. You don't know. Maybe the monkey that lives in that is scarier than the shark that's down there. You don't know. Maybe it's awesome. Maybe it's a big party island. We don't know. You know, because it's your painting. So you can just make those decisions as you see fit. So I'm going to come over here. I think I'm going to add at least one more little palm tree. Okay. Just filling this all in. Making this feel natural. Let's make sure we have some nice fronds. Those look really good. Let's paint those in. Those are interesting palm fronds. So out to the point and then go frond. Just the tip of my brush does this. And then depending on how I flail it out, lets you know the angle that that frond lives on. The wonderful thing about this type of plant is they're so, you know, out there in the weather, aren't they? They're so in the wind. There we go, just a little bit there. Having a nice time. Having a nice time. Add a little one here. There we go. Palm fronds. Let's give our island a little more going on. A little grass. Just doing a very light brush stroke and just letting this give me some grass along the top of this and some interesting lines. So it's not just, you know, smooth. Rinse that out. My 2 cents is I'm going to take a little of my white on the edge of my brush. I'm going to add just a little highlight on some of the fronds. See, like right here, like the moonlight's catching it, maybe a little bit on the trunk. So that they're contrasty and they pop. That's just a nice touch that you can do. It's something that I like to do. Just adding that little contrasting highlight. Just as if the moonlight's catching some of it. You know, a little bit along the island. Highlight these little trees up. A little bit. Notice I'm not putting a lot. This is just a little bit of contrast out there. As if the moon is glowing around them. And you can even add a little of those highlights to the grass. Once you've got all of your story above the water where you're totally happy with it, you can start telling the spectacular, interesting, mysterious story that we have going under the water. I think it's time for us to dive on in and paint the skull that we see floating under the ocean and, of course, our fantastically sleek and beautiful Mako. Let's get that started. So to do this part here, the first thing that I think I'm going to paint in is I'm going to start telling my skull story. And I'm going to do that still with my number 6. So I'm going to come here. And I'm going to take my phthalo blue, phthalo green. You may be now starting to get the theme of this color mixture. I'm going to mix those together, but I'm also going to add a little black to this mixture. That way I've got, so you can kind of see it's like a grayish black. And I'm going to come in first with my dark color. So I haven't rinsed my brush. That grayish green mixture's on there. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to outline a little bit what's happening here in my design, my dark colors. I'm going to do inside his little eyes. See how this is like kind of curved and here that'd be like in shadow, and then everything inside here. That's going to help me paint him, knowing where these big features are. Skulls are a lot of fun, and I think, you know, one of those more interesting and enjoyable things to paint. It's always a reason to need to paint one. Holidays and different things. Alright, so we're just painting that in. Just in there, the intense expression, which is weird, right? Because you don't think skulls of having those, but they can if they're mystical animated skulls. So just pulling that in. We'll get into a detail brush and we'll work some details on here, but we want to just get these big broad strokes in, right? This is my green color. Even I'm going to come and just blend this along this jawline. It's very dark. I like to pull a little bit of a shadow under my water. So I can start to tell that now. I can get my glazing medium out and tell a little bit of that shadow under this wave. Now as I'm going, I can come in to my phthalo green, my phthalo blue, and a little bit of black. All right. I'm going to add a smidge of white to it. You can start to see the color. I'm going to come underneath the eye and I'm going to start creating the shape and value of the skull. This is just a little bit lighter than my first color that I put in. I'm going to come along all the tops of the teeth. I'm going to use a smaller brush to paint in my teeth. It's going to give me more control. But right now I'm just blocking this in. This is the underpainting of our wonderful skull island that we're going to be working from. And it's giving us the big values, the big shadows that we're going to be dealing with. You can just see I'm just painting that in. Just covering the canvas at this stage. Where I'm using the glazing medium for this particular thing, it's not so much to blend as to help my paint flow out and to deal with the very drying conditions that painting under bright lights can give you. Now I lost a little bit of my shadow here, so I'm going to come get my black. And I'm going to just make sure that I have that still in on both sides, because that's an important part of my story here. I'm going to rinse this out. And I'm going to get into my smaller brush. This is that number 1 bright. I'm going to come into my color here. I might even add a little more blue into it. A little more white than my previous mixture. And I'm going to paint in just a little bit of a base shape of teeth. There's going to be water and all kinds of things happening around here, but I just want this base color in. So when I come back, I have a nice foundation to work from. I'm making pointy teeth here. That was definitely a decision that I made to, I think, give this a really otherworldly effect. I hope you're really loving this week's whole Shark Week event. I hope you're loving all the shark videos that we're doing and sharing and all the stuff that's happening on Twitter. I hope some of you guys did start following me on Twitter and have been enjoying the live reaction tweeting to the show. That's definitely a fun thing. Anything you want to know about this week's event, just definitely check the description below. It's going to have more information and links on where to get to that. Let's start putting in our water that's underneath the wave so we can start laying in that landscape. So I'm back into my number 6. I'm going to get this sort of wet. And I'm going to pull a little of my quinacridone and a smidge of the blue. And I'm going to come to the outside here. I'm going to create sort of a water. I'm going to pull all my colors down very, very vertically. I'm going to even cross over where I know I'm going to have my seafloor because I need these to sort of streak down. I'm going to be layering, and the layering is really going to help me. But one of the things that I want to pay attention to is the directionality of how I'm painting. So I can still see my pencil line here where I'm putting in my floor. And I'm just pulling this down. I'm going to come do the same thing on the other side, which is a little blue and a lot of quinacridone on this other side. Just pulling that down. This is going to take a couple layers to get this really gorgeous illuminated underwater effect. It's really fun to paint things that are underwater, but sometimes it's confusing to know how many layers it's going to take. I'm just pulling that down. I might grab some more of the quinacridone red. I'm just still pulling it down here. Up and down vertically. See, I'm just going up and down vertically. Okay. You're doing awesome. Sorry, I can't stop doing it. I'm loving Shark Week. It's super fun for me. I think that I think it's important to respect, you know, the animals around the world, and the creatures of the sea are really important to all of our well-being. We're all connected. And so I think that it's fun to do projects that acknowledge that. I'm taking the phthalo green and the phthalo blue. I'm going to come right here. I'm going to even come back over where I've already painted. Look what that does. That creates an interesting effect. Just pulling that down. Right next to him momentarily with this. And pulling it down. And I'm going to go ahead and keep crossing that floor line because I really want to create this effect of water and light coming through. And this is how I'm going to do that. Same here. Look at that. Look at how it layers. Isn't that crazy? It's so cool. I'm just pulling this down. Look, I'm feathering this. I am making sure that I'm not even about it. I'm letting it get lighter as I come back here. And I'm pulling it down. All right. Crossing over my line. I can still see my pencil line here, so I'm not worried about it. You know. I'm going to put out a little more phthalo blue. I'm running low. And even though I'm going to cast a very dark shadow right under here, I still need to get this first layer in. So water, a little phthalo blue, a little phthalo green. Just still painting it in. Now I'm going to come back around my teeths. And again, like I said, I'm going to have some shadows under here. I just want to make sure I'm vertical with this streaking. That's my big thing here. Everything has a big thing. That's our big thing to worry about here. We're going to come back and redefine these teeth, so don't be too worried about it. Color's transparent, so you're really going to be able to see where they are. All right. Just pulling this color underneath the skull, laying in that first layer of what is underwater. Just crossing over the line where my pencil line is, where my land's going to be. And don't worry if you cross over your teeth a little bit like I did there, because we're going to come put them right back. You've just got to be able to see where they are. And they're going to be all kind of crazy and rustic anyways. But here, see how I've got these like crazy brush strokes? I want to smooth those out. I'm going to smooth those out. That's what's going to be a big deal. I actually, believe it or not, need to let this dry a little bit so that as I put the next layer on, I can create the illumination and the seafloor. So this is a number 4 filbert by Black Pearl, and this is going to give me lots of sharp edges and smooth blending, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. Got my water here. I'm going to get slightly cleaner water. You know, I'm going to come back in and do my green and blue together with a little black. All right. Here we go. A little blending so we're not drying out so fast in our color. And I'm going to start talking about some of this as I'm going through. So I'm going to add a little white to my brush. You can kind of see that that's this greenish color. I'm going to come under the eyes and start talking a little bit about this highlighted area under the eye. All right, same here. This is pretty dark color still. You don't want a bright color. You don't want a light color. Just under here. I'm going to use my blending medium. Help me get a nice soft edge. The other place that I'm going to put a little bit of thought is right above here on the bone. This is like what would be a muscle, but in this case, obviously it's not. It's bone. But this is Mystic Animated Bone. I'm going to make sure that I've got up here at this ridge a slight highlight. So once I have that, I can come get into my darker colors. And start playing with that. Come under here. I'm going to put this all a little more in shadow. See how I'm getting this green? You can come into your black if you need to deepen it up and improve the coverage. And I'm going to come right over very carefully the line of the teeth. Just using the edge of the brush to follow the teeth line. Come put it all resolve back in a second. Just painting around. Blending the shadow. Now another place that I can have some nice deep shadow, I can get a little of my green, maybe some of this black. I want to make sure everything has kind of an underwater cast to it. And come right under this. Come down the side of the nose. Just blend this here. See where. Blend here, leave a little highlight there, blend here. Just underneath. So now we're getting some color and some thought to what's happening. I get some just black on here. I'm going to come in, I'm going to strengthen this eye shape. Make it very open. Lots you can do in here. You can create background illumination. Lots you can do. But I just really right now want to improve that shadow. I think I also want to curve this up. I think I'm going to improve in the nose. I want this to be even darker. So one of the ways to think about this is like maybe an upside down heart. There you go. It's kind of like between the teeth. And I kind of pull that line down between those teeth a little bit. And I'm going to get into my green and blue, but this time I'm going to have it be a little bluer. You can go ahead and add a little black to it, but you want it to be more to the blue than the green. I'm going to get some white on that. And again, here at the corner, even more white. Just kind of right under here. Right here, maybe a little bit along this line here. Right in this inner corner, I'm doing a highlight. Just trying to show where some light is hitting some of the features of your skull. You even come under the nose a little bit. And then I like to sit there and just pull a very nice soft dry brush above each of the teeth. Just to show the definition. It's like a little highlight. If you get too much of one, just come back with your dark color. Be like, wow, you got a little crazy there. Not so much. That is perfectly okay. And that's what I did there. Got a little crazy. I'm going to knock it back. I'm going to get my small brush, my number 1 bright, and I'm going to come in and get some of this blue in black, some white, and a little bit down here. Just dry brushing it. Just thinking about the points. I think what these teeth need is a little bit of shadow. So let's grab a little of a darker blue and black. Come right underneath these and pull that down. Just coming right underneath. I want to arc it. Arc it. Kind of do a little arch, pull it down. This is like totally what you would not want at a dentist. But don't feel bad because he totally wants that. That's what lets the world know. Dangerous space. Right, so we're telling that story. Coming underneath with the shadow. And then I wiped off my brush. I'm going to get some white paint. I'm going to let it go through the green so it's not white. Just dry brush. A little bit of tooth texture. I think it's important at the point. That'll help define them. So I'm shaping that up. Just giving that a little bit of thought. Rinse that out. Now I think it's a good idea to grab a little black paint and kind of come up above the teeth. Just sort of finish that shape out. Really have these suckers show. You see those starting to pop now? Starting to be the good spectacular teeth that they are. You know, you can go back, make sure you've got nice highlights here, but now you kind of know the shape of what's happening. You know what's going on here, right? You know what you're dealing with. I think it's a good idea. Take a little black and a little blue. I'm going to get my glaze. And I feel like right under the teeth, and I'm using my precision brush so that I can get right in here. And then I'm going to come blend this down. But I want everything under here to be quite dark. So this is just the blue and the black. And I'm pulling that down. Fun stuff, I'm pulling it down. We're not really using a lot of colors, but we're getting a lot of result. This is about pulling down this shadow. And you can see right there how it helps pop that above it so well. And it also creates the mood to the water. Right underneath there. It creates some mood to the water. Now, I'll probably pull into this bigger brush to just keep pulling that shadow down, which is a little of the black and a little of the blue, and I like to use my glazing liquid. Really cool tool. Just making sure it's moody, moody, moody. Moody, moody, moody. There we go. Just moody right under here. Does that feel moody? Feel mysterious? And come through the sides here. And again, pull that down. Just a little bit, not too far out. Now we've got some real narrative here. We've got this moody space. Let's rinse out our brush. And put in some underwater landscape real quick. So I'm going to take my phthalo blue over to my quinacridone magenta, and I'm going to make a dark purple. I'm going to even add a little black to that dark purple so you can kind of see it. And I'm going to come back and follow my landscape line that I have. I'm going to come up on this side. It's just following the little line of the landscape that's under the water. I'm going to paint this all in with this dark, dark color at first. Okay, so you just paint it all in with that dark, dark color. If you need more quinacridone, put it out. I certainly do. I'm going to need more blue, more quinacridone. Black. Just painting it all in. Check that this has got vertical lines. That's what you want, is vertical, vertical. More than anything, you want to see vertical. Just covering the canvas. For those of you who would ask, Kevin doesn't really vacation here. They had a falling out years ago, and so he doesn't come by and visit very often. Just in case you were wondering where Kevin was. But, you know, maybe in your painting Kevin, and I don't know the name of our Shark Island guy. Maybe they've reconciled, and so just making sure that's all covered. Now, one thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to dry my painting and sketch in my chalk. So let's get the painting dry so we can do that part. So I like to get my Mako Shark in about now. That way I can create some highlights and lowlights around him to really help him pop. And I think that will also help you succeed at home. I have some kids chalk here that I have sharpened, as you can see, with just a regular pencil sharpener. Now, of course, you can use the traceable, but I'm going to show you how I drew in my Mako. I really like the sleek lines, and I want to make sure that there's enough room, right? So I'm going to actually put a curved line for the tail here, and then I'm going to curve. And see, what I like about the chalk is I can erase this. A nice line for my Mako Shark. And then I'm going to make a very sharp nose and a little bit of an open mouth, kind of curving around, and then join up to the tail. And that's going to be a very nice long line is what I'm looking to make. Obviously, you'll have the traceable. I'm going to make some very, very aerodynamic fins that are going to come back. And of course, a pretty sleek dorsal. So this should give this creature sort of a darting through the water feel. I'm going to get a small bright. And first, I'm going to put him in black, interestingly enough. So I'm going to load up my brush with black, and I'm going to paint all this in. Now, your chalk will come off with just water, clean water, and a brush. So you can paint inside the chalk lines and then clean it up outside once the paint is dry. That's the only thing that's really going to smear and mess with your painting is, of course, the paint. Hopefully the painting is going swimmingly and you're ready to finish your awesome Mako shark, because you're going to Mako shark with me. All right, let's finish this little guy up. All right, so we have a nice sleek outline, and we're going to come in, we're going to put some highlights and some shadows on here to make him really gorge. I like to take my phthalo blue and my phthalo green, make that phthalo turquoise. That's so nice in the painting. And I'm going to get some nice white and really create a light color. I'm going to come along the edge of him with my small number 1 bright, and I'm going to create a good highlight. It's going to be quite bright, as if light is coming through the water and hitting the top line of him. I'm going to pull this sort of down in a nice little dry brush. So you'll see that it has a slight green cast to it. And that way everything really reflects what's happening in the water, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to say everything is sort of seen through a tinted lens. You know, and so we're just painting that like that. Let's get some more of our color. I'm going to come along the back dorsal. All right, just painting this along. And then maybe on the inside edge here. Just showing where some highlights might possibly be hitting our guy. And then another place we can do some is right here, kind of like in the belly. I like to come back with a little bit of a bright highlight along the top and to sharpen the nose along this back, and maybe on the inside edge of this. Once you have him really well defined, where you like him, where you like his color, come with like my blue and green and blend this so this is just a little more aquatic, right? Just taking the phthalo turquoise and I'm blending along here, just making sure he's not just a black floating shape, but that he's part of his watery world. Okay. All right, so I'm going to come with a slightly bigger brush, and I'm going to add a little bit of highlight around him in the water and then the top of the hill. So I'm going to take my phthalo blue and phthalo green, making my phthalo turquoise. You can even get a little yellow into it if you want. I'm going to get my glaze. Here we go. And let's come underneath him. I'm going to pull down just softly pulling down a little bit of color. Vertical. Just under the nose, vertical. And then even from up top here, let's pull down some of this, showing that the water is highlighted. Get some glaze if you need it. Here we go. Applying a little bit of this. And the trick is going to be just making sure these brush strokes, if you need a little more quinacridone for the outside edge, you know, just make sure that they're vertical. They're traveling up and down. Right under this fin. Maybe a little bit under this fin. Now the other place, while you've got a little of your magenta, you've got your sea color in it, a little bit of your white, and you can come along the top of your bank on the edge of your brush, lightly brush some dry highlights Just saying that there's some ocean floor that we're seeing some light on. I'm going to come over here on the other side to keep it more in the pink, so to speak. Just pulling that along here. Let it come out and then down a little bit over. I'm just making some faint little shadow shapes, and then you can pull some of this color down here. Back into your phthalo turquoise. A little bit of white. Let's pull some of this nice watercolor pulling down here. The light just pulling down. It's another little color that you can do. You can do your phthalo turquoise, a little bit of white. Come here and add a little of that. Just making your ocean floor right here at the bottom. Just feel like it's part of the world. Make sure you're happy with your highlights under your Mako. You really want to see his sharp silhouette. That's important. I'm just making sure that we can really see his sharp silhouette. He's a sharky dude. There we go. Just putting that last touch. I think we're there, guys. I think that we have told our story. I think we visited Shark Island. I think it's an okay time to get our detail brush out and put our mark on the canvas saying we've done great. I'm going to get some little paint here. And I think I'll come maybe down here. Put in a little Sherpa mark. Thank you for joining me for Art Week, which is Shark Week. It's so much fun. I hope you're looking forward to tomorrow's Sharktacular project, and definitely check for the Sharktacular projects we've already done because we're sharking it up. I hope you'll follow me on Twitter, and we'll live tweet during the Shark Week show on Discovery. I want to see you guys at the easel really soon, especially tomorrow for the next Sharky project. Bye-bye!